In this video, you are going to learn how to go from this to this. Quite an improvement, isn't it? Well, nothing has changed except of the styling. So the colors are different, the background colors, maybe the font is different, maybe the size of the text boxes, but the text and the elements, everything else is the same as this one. So what I did here is I wrote some CSS code, which is very simple to do actually. So I'm going to teach you some CSS in this lecture. And that would be enough to get you started with CSS. Just that I'm sure you know. So we have Python and HTML. These are the languages that we use so far in the app that we built. So Python is used for the processing on the backend. It processes the information, and HTML is the language that creates these widgets. So HTML is interpreted by the browser. Now there's a crucial difference between HTML and Python. Python is interpreted by the Python interpreter, which is installed in the server where the app is running. So in our case, it's installed in our computer. When we deploy the app to a server, that server needs to have Python installed as well, so that the Python language can be interpreted and the user data, so this data can be processed on the backend. Now HTML is interpreted by the user browser, not by the server. So our app, our server is sending HTML code to the user browser, and the user browser, so any browser, is programmed to interpret HTML and display HTML like so, as you can see in here. Now CSS is the same as HTML, so the browser can also interpret CSS and display the styling, so this nice looking colors and text boxes. So that's what I had about the theory. Let's go to the editor now. Okay, so we have this Flatmates build package which does the processing. We have the templates folder which has the HTML templates, and we have the main.py file. Now we need here to create a static directory or folder, which has to be in the same directory with main.py. So make sure that you right click here and go to a new directory when you create the static folder. Okay, then inside static, right click and new file and write main.css. Enter, and here is where we are going to write the CSS code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to style the build form page only. That's the most complex page that we have. So if you learn how to style that, you can style the other ones by yourself. It's very easy. Therefore, since we are working with this page, we need to tell this page the link to the CSS file, which we are going to write some CSS code in. So we need to connect these two files. The way to do that is with a single line of code, which needs to be inside these head tags. So you see, opening head tag, closing head tag here. So open a tag and write link rel style sheet. So a CSS file is also called a style sheet, and href will be the link to the CSS file, which could be an HTTP or HTTPS link, so a full URL or a relative path in our directory, which in our case would be static/main.css. So that's the path of that file there. And then close the link tag. And then once you do that, we can go ahead and write CSS code. Let me write something to demonstrate to you how this will change our web page. I'm going to write h2 curly brackets, enter one more time, tab, and color dark gray, and a semicolon. Now I'm going to run my main.py file, go to the link, go to the build page, and you see that the build form now has changed from black to gray, to darker gray to be exact. Now, to save you some headache, what happens is that when you do changes in your CSS file, let's make it yellow temporarily, and then you go to the browser. So I didn't save the file. You don't need to save the CSS file in PyCharm if you are using PyCharm. If you are using another IDE, maybe you need to save it with Ctrl S or Command S. So I didn't save the CSS file, and when I go to the browser, if I reload the browser by using the reload button here, or maybe do Ctrl R or Command R, the changes will not be reflected on the page. That is due to the browser cache. So what the browsers do is they save the latest status of the web page styling. So they don't update the styling anytime you refresh the page, because the browser wants to be effective, wants to be fast, and it doesn't want to read the CSS anytime you reload the page, since the CSS is not as important, and it's supposed that CSS is not changing every second. But as programmers, we want to see the changes because we are developing the program, the app. So to get the latest changes, you want to do, if you are on Windows, Control-Shift-R, so these three buttons. If you are on Mac, you do Command-Shift-R, which would work on Firefox on Mac, but if you are on Safari on Mac, you'd have to do Command-Option-R. So if I press those three buttons, I will get the latest changes of the CSS file. So my title now is yellow. Right, so let me explain you this code. I'm going to throw this to the right and go to main.py. To the HTML page, because CSS is related to HTML, not to the Python code. Python is on the backend. So this H2 here refers to the H2 tags. All the text that is inside these tags in our code is going to get a yellow color. In our case, we only have these H2 tags here, so only this, the build form is going to be converted into yellow. So you can search online what attributes you can add to your CSS, but I can tell you a few attributes, a few useful attributes, like text align, that would bring the text to the center. So currently the text is aligned on the left, but if I do Ctrl-Shift-R or Command-Option-R, the text now will be shifted to the center. If you want to change the font size, do font size and 50 pixels maybe. Don't forget the semicolon. Refresh the page again, Ctrl-Shift-R, and the title is bigger now. One last change, I will make it dark gray, because yellow is a bit hurting to the eyes. So that's the logic of CSS. So basically you refer to one tag, one element of your HTML, and then you use these curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets you enter the attribute name and a column and the attribute value that you want all those elements to have as attributes, as visual attributes. Let's close this video now, and in the next lecture we will complete all the form here. So we are going to have a complete form page which will look nice. See you in the next lecture.